The International Olympic Committee today announced that the Russian Olympic team has been banned from next February's Olympic Games in Pyeongchang for what the IOC call systemic manipulation of the anti-doping rules and system. However, individual athletes will still be permitted to compete if, this is how, they are determined to be clean by the IOC. If they do compete, they will not do so under the Russian flag and will be competing as Olympic athlete from Russia. That's how they'll be listed. They will also march behind the Olympic flag at the opening and closing ceremonies, and if they're on the podium, they will hear the Olympic anthem. No Russian national anthem at these games, no flag whatsoever. Also, as part of the decision today, the Russian Olympic Committee has been suspended immediately, and no officials from the Russian Ministry of Sport will be accredited for Pyeongchang. Slava Malamud, Russian journalist, will be joining us next hour. There are so many things to go over here. The overriding question, though, Carolyn, today is, do you think the IOC got this right?
In my eyes, it's a complicated question, because for the IOC, did they get it right for themselves selfishly? Yes, they did, because they can still save face with the Olympics. They can still help the athletes who are innocent from Russia. But in terms of the Russians, I don't think they did make the right decision, because this isn't total punishment. If you're still letting athletes perform just under a different flag, but they'll still be considered Russian athletes, then I don't think you got it right. But in terms of the innocent athletes, they're able to play on.
See, here we are, right? The IOC has a mountain of evidence that in 2014 in Sochi, with IOC officials all over the place at the WADA testing center, the entire thing was compromised. There is a movie on Netflix right now about the guy who was there. Icarus. Watch it. It walks you through all of it. And the IOC, who were sleeping in beds all around this building, had it happen. So now a mountain of evidence from Sochi there was doping, multiple eyewitnesses. They've already passed the buck in previous games. In Rio, they passed the buck. They let the federations decide. So now's their moment. Now is where Bach and the IOC, who have forever passed the buck on this, finally have a chance. And what do? This is where they should have gone, and they went right there.
Yeah.
They got as close as they could without completely banning everybody. And what they want to do is have Vladimir Putin, who we have yet to hear from and we'll hear from soon, they're going to make him pull the entire team. They're going to make him boycott the Olympics.
Which is worse. Because then
but if you're the IOC, that's what you want.
But you're giving the power back to him.
He's always had the power.
That's like being a parent.
He's always had the power.
That's like being a parent, disciplining your kid and saying, you're not allowed to go to the school. We don't want you to go to the school dance. Only some of your friends can. And then the kid says, it's fine. I don't need to go anyway.
Look, here's my point here. The IOC today should have said, I don't care whether you test clean or not right now, you are not going to South Korea next year.
But don't you feel for those athletes?
No, I don't feel for those athletes. And here's why I don't feel for those athletes. Because based on all the knowledge we have of PEDs and steroids and drug testing and all of the above, I don't care how many athletes you test in the next month and a half ahead of those games. The way this works is the people using are 5 steps ahead of whatever test you've got. We've seen it multiple times with various people. Even if you test these athletes, I have zero faith, that they're all clean, even if their history's clean. The message they had to send today to the world against a tyrant and a doping system at the highest levels of government was you can't do this. In the report they released today, they compared it to East Germany in the 60s, 70s. They shot people up with horse tranquilizers. That's what we're comparing this to. And the IOC today, and I'm reading people going, wow, the IOC got it right. The IOC got it wrong. The IOC, again, were cowards about this and didn't get to the finish line. And they're making Putin pull his team. And he will. Over the next 72 hours or so, you're going to hear Russia are not going to those Olympics next year. Meanwhile, the IOC should have just done it themselves. Blanket ban. I don't care who's clean. I don't care who doped. I don't care who's tested positive. The message should have been clear. And I am still floored with the evidence that's out there that they still didn't have the balls to do it. My question is, Putin knows where the bodies are buried too.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin was just in bed with these people, right? Hosted like a $50 billion Olympics. Created a city that doesn't have to be there right now. There's nobody in Sochi. And for the IOC to not take the extra step, they were right there. To not meet and do the right thing and ban them completely when they're comparing them to East Germany is cowardly. And I expected it, and I think it's wrong. And I think they could have gone the extra step. They were right on the ledge, and they refused to jump. And they're going to make Putin pull out.
I don't think they ever would have jumped either. I think this is the closest comfortable step that they would have taken. The thing that also bothered me from the press conference today was Bach. He was asked a question about how would you feel with the Russians then boycotting on their own. And he kind of laughed it off during the question. And his answer was saying, well, really, what's boycotting do? I mean, it doesn't really help the situation. But if that's being said then, isn't that an argument for just getting rid of them completely?
I mean, I'm with you. What, you were right there. You were right. Thomas Bach, the president of the IOC, hashtag fencing. He was right there. And he didn't finish plunging the knife in. And I don't understand it. It's just he didn't want that burden on him.
Exactly.
And it's cowardly. It is cowardly that men of this amount of power and wealth still at the end of the day are just cowards. And I'm done with it. And I'm furious at the notion, well, the IOC got this right. The IOC didn't get this right. The IOC had more evidence in their hands than they've ever had after East Germany. And they still didn't give a blanket ban to any of this. They barely did it for Rio. That was worse. This isn't, to me, this is not as bad, but close.
Will the Olympics, though, going forward be cleaner because of this?
Absolutely not.
You don't think so at all?
Absolutely not. The money involved, the ratings. Do you see how much NBC is paying for these games? You know how much it's worth? You could be a superstar in America for your entire life. By the way, America, don't get me started on that. But I really, really wanted the blanket ban. Didn't get it.
It was never going to happen. You didn't expect it, though.
No, I didn't expect it, but there was a part of me that isn't completely jaded. And there was a part of me that still thought, you know what? If you have video of a guy cutting a hole in the wall and putting in new piss and taking out the corrupt piss, maybe that's evidence enough that the government is involved and you should maybe ban Russia. Completely.
And the fact, too, and I don't know if the IOC really cares about a confession, an apology. Bach mentioned there was a small apology in a closed-door meeting once. Do they care about that? I kind of do, but Russia's never going to come forward and say anything.
No, I think and we're still waiting for Vladimir Putin and the Russian government to give their side of this. And I am fully expecting a blanket withdrawal and boycott from Russia in these games. And how does that affect the men's Olympic hockey tournament?
Well, that's
the KHL could get involved, and we'll get to that in a moment with Slava Malamud. But I just think the wrong thing was done today. I think it was an easy call to ban them completely, and they didn't do it.
Politics, they won't.
Because
politics within the committee, not just Russian politics.
Bunch of cowards. By the way, Sportsnet's coverage of the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics with Carolyn Cameron and others begins Friday, February 9th, with the opening ceremonies. The Olympic movement. It's more than a feeling. I don't think that's a slogan for the Olympics. I just made it up.